to the press conference of Cosatu Gauteng. Let me start by introducing the leadership with my name is Vusimina, the provincial chair of Cosatu. Next to me in the middle is Domsan Tagile, the provincial secretary of Cosatu. At the extreme left is Taban Sonyati, the treasurer of Cosatu. We will then allow the provincial secretary to read a press statement from the province of Gauteng in relation to the action that will be undertaking on the 7th, the Decent Work, International Decent Work Day. Comrade Msant Dagile will take us through what is going to happen there, what is it that we seek to achieve. With you, all of you will be having a statement that you are releasing in order for it to assist you to interact with us. The provincial secretary.
We will start to reach. I think that we have also circulated the statement, so it's just necessary go on point to work, but we just tried to summarize briefly. It's not necessarily also a long statement. Firstly, by indicating the fact that we want to publicly reflect the fact that we have resolved this topic to do everything within our own powers to support the current call that has been made by the Central Executive Committee of Cosatu to embark upon a strike action on the 7th of October to highlight various issues and demands of our members and the working class. And as we speak, we are currently engaged in various mass general meetings across the breadth of the province to brief members about this particular decision. We first want to further indicate that the country still remains facing quite many challenges. But here among these challenges being the issue of a high level of inequality, a high level of poverty, and high level of unemployment. And we also want to acknowledge the fact that government has over the years introduced various policies to deal with these particular challenges. But the truth of the matter and the reality is that they still remain stubbornly high. And in our view, the reason is precisely because the medicines in the form of policies that have been introduced are not adequately appropriate for the type of the problem and the disease that the country has. It is for this particular reason that the government must be able to adequately diagnose what problems are. In our own diagnosis, the problem lies in the root causes of this particular problem, being the question of the legacy of colonialism and the legacy of apartheid. Our failure to properly address these challenges results in the intervention by government and the state failing to address these particular challenges, which are so glaring across the country. And we are saying that the neoliberal policies interventions as they continue, will not sort out the structural challenge that faces our society. Instead, the situation in our view is getting worse day by day for workers and the poor. It is important to know that millions of houses have been built over the years, but if you look in terms of the backlog still, it remains the same. So basically, we are moving 5 steps forward and 10 steps backward, and we are not making any progress in that regard. The state has pumped so many millions and billions of funds in the education system, but if you look in terms of the challenges, they still remain the same. The state has pumped so much millions in the health sector, but if you look in terms of the challenges that remain as same as they are in the health sector. We are hence experiencing so many service delivery protests on a daily basis in our country. The government must change its neoliberal policies because time is not on our side. We have already notified the security cluster in the city of Johannesburg about our intention to engage on the 7th of October. So basically we are saying that in Gauteng we will be having one action, and that action will be based here in Johannesburg. We'll be gathering here in Cosatu House on the 7th with our members, and we will then move to various areas to deliver the memorandum. What it is that we will be demanding? First and foremost, it will be the question of the support to the student call for a free and compulsory education in South Africa. So we basically, in principle and also in action, support that particular call. And we are saying that government and business must come to the party, because education, in our view, it is not a privilege, but it is a right. Therefore, this issue of commercialization of the education system and people who are deriving profit from, it is not the correct path to take. The challenge in our country, in our view, requires serious investment in education by both the state and the private sector, which in particular the private sector, the major beneficiaries of the people who are going through in terms of the higher education in particular. And the current funding model does not help them assist the country to achieve a free and compulsory education. In fact, if you look in terms of the role and the contribution that is made by business in terms of what they reap out of the system, it is just a serious struggle as far as we are concerned. We'll therefore be campaigning to force business to provide a significant portion in financing free education in our country. We'll therefore be marching to both business and government, and in particular to the Department of Finance and the Chamber of Mines and Chamber of Commerce to place this demand on the 7th and also on the 14th of October 2016. We'll be submitting over and above that the draft text amendment to the Minister of Finance on how the state and the private sector could fund the free and compulsory education in the country. Whether the Minister of Finance should take an opportunity in the coming midterm budget speech to send a clear signal to the country on practical steps that it should be taken to fund education in our system. And we're saying that that must begin with the midterm budget speech now in October, and it must be followed by the presidential what we call State of the Nation address in February. And lastly, those practical steps therefore must be practically introduced by the Minister of Finance in his budget speech next year in 2017. We therefore call upon all the entire university community, students and lecturers and all the progressive forces to join us in demanding the free and compulsory education for all in our country on the 7th of October 2016. In terms of the public transport system, we'll also be calling for the provision of the public transport system in our country, which is safe, which is reliable, which is accessible and intermodal, and the scrapping of the equal project in Gauteng, which has caused the ANC to lose the capital city of Tshwane, the city of Johannesburg, and also including Mohale, and reduce the level of majority in the entire municipalities in the province of Gauteng. We think that this system is unworkable and just a disaster waiting to further explode massively in 2019 unless the government of the people listen to the people before it is too late. Basically, I said that the ANC government at this juncture still has a capacity to deal with this matter and scrap it. And unfortunately, in our view, if this matter will not be dealt with by the ANC government decisively now, come 2019, the possibility is that beyond 2019, they will not have capacity to be able to deal with this particular matter. We are calling also for housing for the working class. I think if you know historically that one of the problems that we have, which is a similar problem in terms of the education system, is what you call people who do not qualify necessarily for loans in their bank precisely because their income is far less, but also do not qualify for RTP houses because of the amount of money that they earn is beyond or above the approach and the requirements that they have in place. And we're saying that this matter government is not taking it seriously, and we are resuscitating this particular matter. The government must come and intervene in ensuring that there's a provision of houses to all those particular workers, both in the private sector and also in the public sector, who do not qualify for loans in the banks and also do not qualify for the RDP houses that are being provided by government. One other demand that we'll be basing on the 7th of October is around the question of the national minimum wage. We're also demanding that the introduction of the minimum wage must be matters that is prioritized and urgently addressed, and as part of the measures to address the issues of inequalities and poverty in our country. Within the government and business argument that the national minimum wage will collapse the economy are unfounded, and far away from the truth. In actual fact, the evidence suggests the opposite. We will also be demanding the national health insurance. We are saying that the state must begin to also prioritize the rollout of the NHI. We will also be placing the smaller demands because we don't believe that finance is putting in necessarily fiscals in terms of addressing this particular question. We'll also be demanding that the youth tax incentives must be ended, and that particular money should be utilized and channeled towards the free education in our country. We will also be calling upon an end to slavery, because the truth of the matter is that in South Africa we've got what we would call a decent form of slavery, which takes the form of casualization, where workers have been casualized for the rest of their life. There is evidence in South Africa that there are people who have been casuals ever since they started to work, and currently they're about to retire still being casuals, without no benefit, without anything. And in Bangladesh, this is more so within what we call the retail sector. That is why also on the 7th of March, among other companies that will be targeting, it will be the SPA, that is quite notoriously known for casualization and labor brokering in our country. We are also calling for an end in the labor brokering, and we're saying in this regard, Namibia has demonstrated beyond any reasonable doubt the fact that you can end labor brokering. If the challenge therefore becomes the issue of the constitutional amendment, the government must have, the ANC government must amend the constitution in order for it to be able to end slavery. We can't have a constitution that allows people to trade with other people. That is nothing else but it is human trafficking, it is slavery. And therefore we're saying that the Namibian government has demonstrated beyond any reasonable doubt that that is quite very possible to be attained, and that has been done. And therefore we're saying that the ANC government must follow suit and take that particular example of the political will by government of the people that is prepared to defend the interests of the people. We are also demanding an end to the investment strike. In our view, it is a fact that the business sector must invest in the productive factors of our economy, and they must invest the reserves which amount to trillions of rands back to the economy, and end what we call the speculative practices. We are basically calling an end to the investment strike by business in the country. We therefore call upon all members of the Federation and all workers in the province of Gauteng to basically shut down Gauteng on the 7th of October in raising this particular demands. And hence we are calling upon also the students and all the other progressive forces in our country in their numbers to shut down the province on the 7th of October. And that's what our intention and our aim is. But we'll also say to government, this is just not necessarily a once-off action on the 7th of October. This is going to be a sustainable campaign where each and every month, one of the demands as raised above will repeat up and be focusing upon. We'll be engaging in various protests, in demonstration, in ensuring that this protest must not necessarily filter down, but they become a continuous matter. And we believe that the balance of forces in that way will also be able to be tilted in favor of the working class, because currently the balance of forces are in favor of government and the ruling elite, which has benefited over the past 20 years in economic terms. The campaign will be undertaken on a monthly basis, focusing on each aspect of our demand until the demands are met by both the government and the ruling elite. That's the end of the statement.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, questions, if there are any, and indicate your name and where you're coming from so that you're able to cordially deal with the questions that you'll be raising.
Good morning. My name is Nero from Times Media Group.
Nero from?
Times Media. Yeah, mine is just a separate issue. With regards to the work that was doing, does Cosatu have any information as to who the worker was and was he or she affiliated to Cosatu? Thank you.
My name is Zinke from independent media. I just want to ask about, you're threatening monthly shutdowns. Would it be a strike every month? How big are we talking about when you're saying that this will be a continuous campaign? And also, wouldn't this be seen as you calling upon students and the working class and lecturers to also join in your campaign in the 7th? Aren't you, in a way, hijacking the students' cause for free higher education by asking them to join in your protest? No more, sorry.
Okay. No other question. Maybe let me take the simpler questions you are raising. I'll start Zinhle with the monthly shutdown. We'll pick a day and we'll pick it outside an institution. If it's the Department of Finance, we'll do so with a number of workers, whether they are 10 or 20. So we no longer want what we call the Touching Life campaign. We want a campaign that is sustainable on a monthly basis up until our demands are met. We'll start with a number of workers that will be calling upon on that day up until it grows to a bigger campaign. So we'll indicate to the media when are we starting that campaign. It's an important campaign for us as the Federation in order to highlight the issues that we are raising. I think as for hijacking the student protest, student came to the Federation. We did not hijack any. And we think, working together with students in this particular issue as workers, first and foremost, is progressive. So we are calling themselves. They've called us first to join them on the 14th, by the way. On the 14th of October, they've indicated that they want Cosatu to join them in their march. We will do so. We are not only calling students, we are also calling members of the society across the board. Everyone must come and join this campaign, looking into the issues that we are raising. Those are societal issues. They start by affecting workers, but then they spilled into the society at large.
Brought it to around the issue of that we are still investigating. We're waiting for our shop stewards in VEDS to give us further information in relation to this issue of a worker who has died in VEDS. So we don't have so much of information for now, but it is a matter that we are still waiting for information from our members to be able to brief us exactly as to what is happening. But secondly, if you look at the historical relationship between the student, the youth, and the workers, that apex is quite very historical. If you go back to during the 1980s and what have you, at the height of apartheid battles and struggles, people that have been at the forefront at that particular moment in the main, it has been the student, the youth, and the workers, who had finally dealt a final blow to the apartheid, what you call government. So it's not something that is new. It has been a historical relationship between ourselves and the student. And we must also understand the fact that it is our members who are parents of these students. So when you talk about your students who are poor, who can't afford to pay for their tuition fees, it is precisely because of the members of Cosatu who can't afford to pay that particular monies. So it is not an hijacking. It will never be an hijacking, because part of Cosatu resolution is the fact that we are demanding not just a free education, but in our view is the fact that education must also be compulsory. And we'll be able to deal with a number of other what you call problems and challenges that are facing society. If you go to the township now, you'll see that many of the youth are not at school, precisely because education is not compulsory. So that's part of the demand that we have been placing forward. If you want to see, one of the problem business that they will tell you is
why they can't employ the youth is precisely because they'll tell you that they're not educated, they don't have skills. And those skills can't just come like a manna from heaven. Someone must invest in terms of those skills. And we believe that both government and business have capacity and ability to be able to do so. So it can't be an hijacking. It's just that students, they were here pleading with us. That's why I was saying, while we will be also joining them on the 14th, but we feel that the 14th is too far. We must start somewhere. That's why on the 7th, we are starting, and we are saying that we are demanding that government must, in fact, as we are saying that this is not just a once-off. Because at the core of this thing, it is the fact that the education system has been made as a community that must be taught. If you look in terms of the education system, you look in terms of the political economy of the education system, there are people who are deriving profit out of it in various forms, in various ways. And we're saying most successful countries, you go to Germany, for example, you go to America, you go to Norway, you go to the Scandinavian countries across. One of the precisely reasons why they are developed and why their economy are growing in the manner that they are growing, it is precisely because of the conscious decision that has been taken by those particular governments to invest so much in the education system. If you look at the reasons why South Korea has been leading in terms of the economic growth over the past 40 years, is because if you look in terms of the level of investment that has been provided by government to the education system, it has been far above what we are doing in our country. And that's what we call a developmental state that our ANC government intends the South African government to be. So you can't just declare over a declaration that you want to be a developmental state, but you don't demonstrate in practice any reality of that particular fact.